A very warm welcome to the grand stage of India Startup Festival 2023. Throughout this festival, you will have the chance to connect with brilliant minds, industry leaders, visionary entrepreneurs who have dared to dream big and change the game. This is a place where ideas take flight and dreams become ventures, where innovation knows no boundaries and dreams know no limits. Let me now also take this opportunity to welcome my co-host, the beautiful and the meticulous Ms. Nagajyoti Avasinghi on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Jyoti.
Hello.
You don't sound like that.
Request everybody to come back to the hall, please. We're just starting. Request everybody to rejoin back in the hall.
Good morning, everyone. Yesterday, personally
Good
for me...
afternoon. Can you please come back to the hall? We're just starting, please.
From where this going?
Request everybody to come back to the hall, please.
Who is speaking?
Wow, that's called as announcement. So, good morning, all. I'm sure you all had a great day yesterday. Personally, for me, I was amazed to see how term sheets were getting committed yesterday as part of 1 hour event. Meeting with dignitaries, meeting with startups was one part of it, and evening it was amazing. Listening to Sadhguru, for me, it's the first time that I was listening to him. Really, I was enlightened with the kind of inputs he provided for us, how to think about what we are doing. So with that, and I'm sure Harmony is the symphony program, I'm sure everyone enjoyed. So why don't we start the next day in the similar fashion? Let's make one more memorable day with ISF 2023. I know yesterday there were many questions around agenda, so let's discuss on agenda. Let's spend some time there. Especially there was confusion on which hall what is happening. So let me start. I request everyone to please listen. As anchors, we are doing our job. So we are going to have keynote speakers now in Premamrutham, this hall. After that, we are going to start our round tables. So Rashmi, why don't you list out the first set of round tables along with the hall names, conference room names.
Sure, Jyoti. Thank you so much. So we have very important roundtables, and please make a note of the venue. Please make a note of the location of the roundtables. We have CXO roundtable happening at Premamrutham Hall. And then parallelly, we have two other roundtables that are happening. We have GCC roundtable happening at Sadhguru Madhusudan Sai Institute of Sciences and Medical Research, powered by Department of Science and Technology, Karnataka government. And we have Rural Agri-Tech Roundtable happening at Sathya Sai Memorial Hospital. After which, we have the second set of roundtable happening between 4 to 5:30 in the evening, which is Women in Business, and that is also at Sadhguru Madhusudan Sai Institute of Science and Medical Research. And parallelly, we also have a Rural Healthcare Roundtable that is at Sri Sathya Sai Sarla Memorial Hospital.
So I hope you have noted it. Otherwise, we do have our agenda in WhatsApp. It's roaming around in WhatsApp. Or we have the printouts. You can always connect with us. After the roundtables, evening we have one good event. We have again award ceremony. Please do attend. It will be happening in the same hall. And obviously after that we'll have a networking dinner. So thus about today's agenda. With that, why don't we start our keynote session. Let's welcome our first speaker, V. Laxmikanth Garu. To be frank, we don't need introduction to any of our speakers, but as a formality, let me do. I request AV team to please show the profile presentations. VLK is a managing partner at Pavestone, a 100M VC fund that invests in early growth stage firms, building enterprise-focused technology platforms and products. Prior to Pavestone, he was also India MD and member of Global Executive Committee for Broadridge Financial Solutions. He has over 40 years of experience He is also known as one of India's IT industry pioneers. He is very active in industry events, industry organizations, whether it's TIE, whether it's NASCOM, whether it's American Chamber of Commerce, HICIA, you name it, he is there. So he doesn't need any other introduction, but again, we have VLK with us. Please pay attention to what he is going to speak. Thank you, VLK Garu.
Namaste. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, great. Okay. So wonderful to be here. My name is Laxmikanth. I represent a venture capital fund called Pavestone. We are a $100 million fund. We primarily invest in growth stage startups, okay, in the enterprise technology B2B space. So any startups here who are in that space, happy to talk to them. So wonderful to be here. And I had a lot to say actually, but post some of the conversations we had this morning and post some of the talks which Sadhguru and the others talked about this morning, I honestly have very little to say from I want to focus on a couple of things. Sadhguru talked about compassionate capitalism yesterday. And I want to spend a little minute on it because then I come from a business background, having run a large corporate enterprise and then part of a VC fund. So obviously there's always a challenge between, the business economics of it and doing the right thing many times, right? And I was reflecting upon it last night, and I think somewhere down the line something gets lost. Especially when I look at it from a startup perspective, usually what happens is when the startup starts its journey, it has a purpose. It says that, whom do I want to be, why do I want to be, etc., etc. And there's a purpose. Very soon, after some time, it becomes as to what do I want to be, okay? Simple example, even as kids today, we don't ask our kids, whom do you want to be? We ask, what do you want to be? And the answer is, I want to be an astronaut, I want to be an IT programmer, etc. But the who gets lost in this translation somewhere. So I believe that as part of the compassionate capitalism, I think both from the venture capital side or the investor side and from the startup side, the continued focus on who, the question who, is very important in order to get the right answer. Sometimes we tend to think that, doing the right things may not get us the right results, okay? I want to tell you a very interesting story. There's a company called Patagonia, which makes fantastic jackets, winter wear, etc. They are a, renowned market leader in that space. In 2011, Patagonia put up a full-paid ad in the New York Times. It said, don't buy our jackets. That was the ad. Okay, you can imagine, you're going to town and saying, don't buy my product. And they said, don't buy my jacket because when I produce my jacket, I use each jacket 30 gallons of water, 20 tons of CO2 is emitted into the environment and so many other things happen. Okay. That year actually sales of Patagonia jackets skyrocketed. Okay. It's a very interesting, use case or a case. I haven't seen that happen too often, but this allowed me to reflect on the fact that what Patagonia was trying to say was you become conscious of when you buy. Okay. You make a very informed decision. And I think in today's world it's extremely important because today, as companies, we have a power to talk to the end customer at the ultimate, you could say, individual level. For example, I go to a shop, I want to buy a watch. Most likely the watch company knows that this is my 10th watch I'm buying. Okay. So it's in a position to say that, do you really want to buy this watch? Do you want to be sustainable? Do you want to exchange back your old watch and do something new? So there is opportunities for us to reinvent the business model. While it's not totally compassionate capitalism, but it's a step in the right direction. So my first point I would like to point out is continue to think of who and continue to keep the end customer and make him informed so that he makes the right decisions when he's buying. As a venture capitalist, I look at trends that are happening in the market. In the last year alone, probably in the last 18 months, I've spoken to over 350 startups. I've reviewed probably about 900 decks in the last probably 24 months or so. While there are many underlying themes that startups look at, and digital and the economy and blockchain and AI and ML, all of them, I think there are two other things that we should start to look at. One is very interesting. Post the, post the World War, there was a huge middle class boom in the United States. And actually it was very, you would say artificially created. That is, people came back from war. The government invested close to $500 billion then in creating this middle class. And pretty much after that, it's become, the US has become the largest economy, both in terms of consumerism, consumer consumption, and in terms of GDP. Secondly, was the importance of credit. So, easier credit actually leads to a lot more consumption, a lot more demand, etc. So, if you look at India today, we are starting to see those two trends at a fundamental level. One is the creation of more and more people in the middle class and more frictionless credit. So, while you are looking at your businesses from digital AI, blockchain, etc., very important for you to look at the underlying economic trends and make your business cases along those things. So, to me, I believe that the rising middle class is extremely important, rise of frictionless credit, and more importantly, any businesses which saves time. For example, today, let's say, what does Swiggy do? Swiggy saves time. It gives you delivery at your home, but you're in the comfort of your home. If you probably have made 100 orders in the course of a year, you probably have saved 1 week of your commute time. Okay. So businesses which save time will be ultimate, I would say, the multiplier effect for them. So finally, to the startups, I have a couple of messages. When we look at startups, what do we look at? We look at a couple of things. And in most conferences, if it's a tech conference, you would quote Steve Jobs, but as an investor, I'll quote Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett says there are 3 kinds of investors / 3 kinds of companies. Okay, one are the innovators, the second are the imitators, and the third are the idiots. The innovators, the imitators, and the third are the idiots. So what it essentially means is, if there's a trend, if you catch on early, you're the innovator and you get the outsized returns. If you are an imitator, you'll get there. You may not get outsized returns, but you will still be there. But if you're an idiot, most likely you will lose out. So one of the first criteria that we look at is, as we look at companies, we look at, are you an innovator, are you an imitator, or are you an idiot? So I would suggest that when you come back to the table in front of an VC, you should do that self-reflection. Secondly, I think one big, having worked in a corporate and moved to this side of the house, one challenge which I find, especially when people come for money, they are not able to articulate a question if asked, what do you want beyond money? If you had all the capital in the world, what would you do differently? Okay. And people struggle with that answer. So people look at, I'll have capital, then I'll solve all my problems. But usually not the case. Most often, most of the challenges come due to, I think we all know that ideas are great, but execution is the most important thing. So if you can't execute, you really can't build a business. And more importantly, as Peter Drucker said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So in which case, how do you build your organization? How do you scale it? What are the organizational building constructs that you are employing is extremely important. So I would urge you to look at 2 things. Again, the Warren Buffett quote is something you can think about. And secondly, think about what is it beyond capital that you want from the investor. Okay, usually an investor is able to offer a lot more, provided you're open about it. So I wish the startups here the very best. Okay, I think great ideas, great traction, great energy, great place for you to incorporate your company and have ideas. So you find the fact that Jay Garu has been able to bring this entire ecosystem together is a great tribute. Leverage that opportunity. And I wish the ISF continued success, both domestically and globally. Thank you for your time and a patient hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. May I request Tarun Singhal, please come on to dais for handing over memento.
Tarun Gulati. All right. Thank you, Tarun. And thank you, VLK, for giving us your precious advice. Our next keynote speaker is a serial entrepreneur, investor, and a business executive. He is the founder and CEO of Zolon Tech Inc., managing partner of Zolon Ventures, and a venture partner at Powerhouse Ventures. Has 20 years of experience in delivering technology solutions in cloud, mobile, and cyber for USA federal government in national security, defense, and intelligence agencies. Recipient of the prestigious Fed 100 award, he is deeply passionate about wealth creation and growing enterprises through a thoughtful implementation of innovative ideas. An active investor in cryptos and blockchain technologies. I'm sure all of you must be interested to know more about it. He holds an MS and BS in engineering and an MBA from the Duke University. Please put your hands together to invite Mr. Ram Mattapalli, CEO, Zolon Tech Inc., and Managing Partner, Zolon Ventures. Please put your hands together. Thank you. Ram, would you like to use the podium or a handheld mic?
No need podium. Sorry? No, I'll use the podium.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Bangalore. I am Ram Mattapalli, founder and CEO of Zolon Tech. I am very honored to be here at this great India Startup Festival and privileged to speak in front of you. So Zolon Tech is a Washington, D.C. based technology services firm. We primarily work with the US federal government from the departments like defense to all the way to health and human services, labor, education, stuff like that. In the commercial, we do work with the financials and healthcare companies. As an entrepreneur myself, I have a good journey, just like anyone else, a lot of difficulties, challenges, and with, some good luck and hard work and patience and persistence, we are in a decent size. So as an entrepreneur journey, I always want to kind of give back to my fellow entrepreneurs, just give some of experience I learned over the period of my building my business and also, of course, providing the capital. So today I want to talk to you about my journey as this, helping fellow entrepreneurs as an active investor, right? As a startup, investing in startups and early stage companies. So I want to talk to you about one company which has a great experience for me and also very fulfilling in a way, multiple ways. So I'll explain that with you. So this company name is called Vital AI, VYTAL.ai, Vital AI. So Vital AI is started by two persons based in Washington, D.C. Their name is Sai and Rohan. So let me tell you one thing about Sai and Rohan. They are both in high school. They just finished their 11th grade. So both are 17 years old. So before I go a little deep into Vital.ai, what they do, let me start with a very good and a positive note about the company. I'm very pleased to say that just not too long ago, a few weeks back, Vital raised $1.1 million at the valuation of $12.5 million. And did I tell you, these both founders are just in high school, 17 years old, not even graduate from high school yet. They have one more year to go. So let me talk a little bit about Vital.ai. So please bear with me. This is a little bit of medical jargon here. So Vital.ai is a SaaS-MD. It's a new platform we call software as a medical device. We all know about SaaS. A lot of them are aware of SaaS, PaaS, CaaS, things are there. The new term is SaaS-MD, software as a medical device. So at Vital, Sai, Rohan, and their team are building an application called NeuroOS. NeuroOS is a mobile web application that walks users through 30 seconds of gaze tracking tests. Then a deep learning algorithm they have built analyzes the user's eye movement and is able to draw diagnostics for neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. So you may be wondering, right, how exactly this app doing a 30-second gaze tracking test can lead to diagnosis this kind of very important diseases, right? Especially given with the current technology, it takes thousands of dollars, numbers of hours to procure similar diagnosis. So basically, what this NeuroOS does is, based on this gaze tracking test, actual biomarkers are extracted based on the delay in the eye's movement. And based on this metrics, NeuroOS application is able to draw a link between the eye movement and the brain health. So basically, using your eyes as a window into your mind. So that's what Vital AI does. So talk a little bit about the company, right? Again, building this new platform, SaaS-MD, software as a medical device, is extremely, incredibly challenging for anyone, and especially someone that's just 17-year-olds. So when Sai and Rohan came to see me a year ago, basically they're at the time 16 years old, I was very inquisitive about their idea. Obviously, that looks like a pretty serious thought. First question is that, can you really execute it? Can you really build it? They showed me their idea, their team, that they can build it. I definitely blown away. But then I said, you guys seems like pretty smart guys, even though your age is pretty young. I said that I will definitely advise you, help you the way I can. But I clearly warned them, right? Especially this medical device spaces, or especially healthcare spaces, filled with so many technologies, apps that are brim with challenge every turn. And especially I told them, these doctors, right, the medical doctors, they're very skeptics when it comes to technology. And they're very unwilling to assume that this a smartphone or a laptop can do this amazing diagnosis work and pretty much do their job. It's very, very difficult to overcome with their challenges, kind of work with them. And also told them, you guys in great technology, you're bringing it out, but also selling it to other investors is a pretty difficult, daunting task. I warn them, nobody takes you seriously just given your age. Everybody says that they want to help and support young people, but in the end, they look for experience, education, all of that. It's a very tough task to sell. But I give them a path, what to do, where to go after. First and foremost, I told them to be focused on the one path. Because when you're building this app, you can do so many things, right? With this algorithm you're building, eye movement, eye gaze. But I told them earlier and focus on one thing. One is just a couple of things, maybe some diseases like big ones, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, which are very serious diseases, especially in Western countries. I told them focus on that. Second thing I asked them to focus on, don't worry about building an app, putting an app store, assuming that consumers download, pay $10, $20 a month. That is very difficult task to do that, achieving the size and scale. I change them direction, go towards more of a B2B market, right? B2B here. Idea is that you build this great NeuroOS, but you sell or offer through the neurologist offices. That's where this the degenerative diseases patients go there. So ask them to work through that direction. So they're able to build this technology, convince some doctors. It's a very ardent, difficult task. I don't want to go too details. But at the same time, back to the ventures investors, right? It was very difficult convince them to do this. A lot of investors, first thing they say, hey, you're just 17-year-old guys. in 1 year you're going to finish your college, mostly end up going to Stanford or something like top schools. Then what happened to the company? Would you willing to work, give up your college dreams? That kind of questions come back. There's somebody say you're too young, we don't want you to work, we'll bring some seasoned executives to run the business. No, those kind of bottlenecks, roadblocks they put on their place. But I convince them, keep on doing your things. It's not an easy task. Eventually works out because SciMD is a new platform. There are not many companies out there. And what you are doing is a pretty remarkable things. And it's basically a very unique thing. Nobody is really doing that, this Neuro OS, where they can do 30-second gauged eye movement test, can produce a diagnostic results, which takes really thousands of dollars, number of hours. So they are in a pretty good shape. So I encourage them to continue to do that path. Clearly, eventually the results shown, as I told you in the beginning of my speech, they raised $1.5 million. That is some tremendous valuation, $12.5 million. They're in the right path, going right directions. They got a relationship with these big hospitals in the US, like a Mayo Clinic and all of that. I'm very thrilled to be part of their journey and support them. So that being said, here a lot of entrepreneurs. I hear so many stories. I'm very amazing to hear their stories, the ideas they have. But I would implore this fellow entrepreneurs here, focus on this new thing, SciMD, software as a medical device. We all know healthcare is a big field. It's growing tremendously, especially the field of medicine. If you're getting into this SciMD style, software as a medical device, and build some platform or build something on this kind of a platform and devices, it could be tremendously beneficial, not only you as a personally, romantically, but also helping the, fellow humankind, right? Imagine, we all know during pandemic what happens, what is telemedicine was helpful for us. Now we realize that to do any diagnosis, you don't have to go to see a doctor in person. You can do everything remotely using some pretty built-in these new technologies which can definitely help you to diagnose and things like that. So with that, all I want to put this thought in front of you, again, give my experience, some journey I had as helping fellow entrepreneurs. I want to share my experience with you. And also I want to thank you very much for giving this opportunity, especially Jaya Garu, my dear friend and dear mentor, helping me to come here and ask me to be here, and also great to see so many fellow CXOs and other investors. Thank you very much for your time. Looking forward to meeting you more like-minded individuals. Thank you.
Thank you, Ram. Thank you. That was very informational. And this is one company that's grown from startup to small, medium to a large business in the DC area of United States of America. All right, thank you so much. I would now request Tarun Gulati to please come up on the stage and give a small token of gratitude from ISF 2023 to Ram Mattapalli. As always.
Well done.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Ram. Our next keynote speaker, I have a huge list of introduction of things that he has done. So in the interest of time, I'll just cut it short. He is an international trade and investment lawyer in Washington, D.C., an investment banker, chairman to Give a Life Foundation, nominated for Nobel 2019 and 2020 for establishment of bone marrow transplant registries. Name it the field, he has contributions in every field. Being a law practitioner, he has contributions in education field, government service, healthcare, investment banking, and many more to go. So without taking any much more time of all of yours, let me introduce Mr. Bart Fisher on stage with a round of applause, who is going to talk to you and educate us on building bridges between India and the United States of America. But would you like to use the podium or you want a handheld mic?
Is this working? Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm here to talk about a different kind of startup. We're a startup, and India is very late to this party, this startup. So I'm here. I came a long way from Washington, D.C. to talk to you all about this startup. And the other subject I want to talk to you about is building bridges between the United States and India. And in my opinion, healthcare is one of the best areas where we can build bridges in our mutual self-interest, the win-win propositions. And the healthcare security issue right now is very important because we realize in the United States, just like you do in India, that we cannot rely on China for our medical healthcare solutions. We have to have our own solutions. We can't be dependent on foreigners. We have to have our own local solutions. And the particular mission I'm on here has to do with what we call the bone marrow transplant registry. For example, most people know that you can transplant solid organs like heart, lung, liver, kidney, pancreas. We all understand that. But most people really don't understand that the marrow is a fluid organ, and it can be transplanted also. And the occasion on which you would do that is if you have a cancer. They're called blood cancers, like leukemia, Hodgkin's, lymphoma, and other kind of blood cancers. But in order to be able to make the marrow work again, to make red cells, white cells, platelets, you have to have a new marrow, and you have to have a match. So our program in America is called Be the Match. You'll see it advertised everywhere on subways, and people are signing up for it in America. But it hardly exists in India. India has 4 small private registries, and in the United States, we have over 30 million HLA marrow-type donors, voluntary donors, in the registry, 30 million more overseas, so a total of 60 million voluntary donors. India has less than 2 million. And for a population of its size, to find a match, you need 80 million. It's a massive undertaking, but it can be done. And what the Give Life Foundation is proposing to do, and will do, in fact, is launch a campaign called Swab for Life. With one swab, you're in the registry. We can get the DNA, the information we need to be able to do a bone marrow transplant, which is pretty amazing. And it's a information technology. Obviously, India is very good on software programming, information technology, et cetera, but in this area, India is way behind. And one reason is India has bigger problems than just blood cancers. I mean, it's rural healthcare in general, which is the subject this morning. But what we're doing is we have to keep the focus on a solution that can work. And it's beautiful because if you get a match, say for some little girl in Los Angeles that has leukemia and needs a match, Indian girl, she can get the match from India and vice versa. So we can have marrows, and half our business in America on the bone marrow transplants is international. So we have marrows going all over the world in little brown patches with couriers carrying them when we find the match. So far, we have made over 100,000 matches off the registry. These are people who would otherwise not be with us. We've just begun. We need to have a much larger registry. You're like looking for a needle in a haystack. It's very hard to find. You need a lot of numbers. It's a huge numbers game. For India to play in this game, it needs 80 million HLA marrow type donors. This is a big task, but we can do it. And we can do it with public and private support. One of our partners is here, Sadhguru, and we're going to work with him in India to get voluntary donors to sign up. We're also working with the Grace Cancer Foundation, which is based in Hyderabad, and they will be our second local partner. We have spoken actually 3 years ago with Indian National Railways, and they volunteered to have their railway stations be places where you could have the swabbing stations at the railway stations. When you start thinking about it, you just have to find places where people can sign up. We would like to talk with Apollo hospitals, for example, where they have pharmacies, and like in US, CVS, Walgreens, the pharmacies are places where you sign up for the registry. So we want to make the registry ubiquitous, global, around the world. I've been all over the world to set up these registries, places the US doesn't have good relations with even, like Cuba. We did the first medical agreement with Cuba to set up the bone marrow transplant registry because Hispanics are not very good about signing up for the registry. So we had to go to Cuba for our base. And we had marrows going back and forth from the US and Cuba. Most people don't know that, but that's a big deal politically. And we can literally become blood brothers and sisters when we do the registry. That's what we want. And it's a tool to improve relations between countries. Most people don't think about, in the area of international relations, how do you build bridges? Well, healthcare is a wonderful bridge. It's also very important. In the US, healthcare is 20% of the US gross domestic product. Just think about it, it's a big number. And so it's a big part of the economy. And we know in the area of oncology is very important. Treating cancers is very important. And the news that I have to announce this morning is that we are also on the US side being supported by the Clinton Global Initiative. This is President Clinton and Hillary. They want to do the registry here too. So they're on the team to do the registry. We're going to have very strong support on the US politically to make this one of the big bridges we're going to build to India. Obviously, there's other bridges that are very important. Trade, investment, defense. You can look at them, but none of them more practical for your daily life than healthcare. And India needs to dramatically improve the healthcare. The rural healthcare needs, there's a big gap between urban healthcare and rural healthcare in India. We have to address that. So this is part of the solution, is information technology. And I'm convinced that if we combine blockchain, artificial intelligence, and all the information from the bone marrow transplant registry, we'll have a powerful tool for medicine in general. We'll have information. And so the festival here is a wonderful opportunity to meet all these startups. But as I said, we're a different kind of startup. In India, we're a startup, but we're not a startup around the world. India is way behind. India has to catch up. I'm here to help you catch up. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and God bless you all and this great institution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bart. Bart, I have one question for you. Bart, I have one question for you. Bart, I have one question for you. You are a person whose introduction can be given for 2 minutes, 2 hours, and 2 days. So what motivates you to do what you do?
So my story is very interesting. She asked for the motivation. The motivation is that 40 years ago, in 1983, my son Ivan had aplastic anemia, which is when the bone marrow stops making cells of all types, red cells, white cells, platelets, and it's a medical emergency, obviously. You've got to have blood cells to live. And there was no registry in America at the time. So I went to Congress, and I got a bill passed called the National Organ Transplant Act, which set up the registry. Well, it's a great story, and it's the legacy of my son, Ivan, who died because there was no match in America for his type of marrow. It's very interesting from a scientific standpoint. It's 1 out of 4 that a sibling will be a perfect match. These are brother or sister. It's an argument for large families, actually. But if you don't have a sibling match, you're literally dead unless you have a match, what we call an unrelated marrow match from outside the family. Okay, so that's what the registry is. It's for unrelated marrow donors, and it's voluntary. No one's making you do this, but it may be the one chance in your life you have to save a life. You think about it. And we have a rule of anonymity which is for 1 year afterwards, you're not allowed to know how the outcome was, if the person you gave the stem cells to lived or didn't live. But because psychologically, that's a big burden. You know, their life literally depends on whether the marrow match took. So we now have the point where, so it's after 1 year though, you can find out. And so that's very satisfying psychologically to know that you saved a life. You're literally a blood brother or blood sister with somebody, and those bonds go on for life. So that's what I want to set up internationally. You know, you helping someone in India, someone in the US finds the match here and vice versa. That's a tremendous way to improve the relationship because we become blood brothers and blood sisters. Before going to law school, actually, I took a PhD in international relations. I never dreamed I'd use this aspect of medical as part of improving relations between countries, bilateral relations, international relations. We set the registry up in China, Cuba, places where the US isn't necessarily all that friendly, but if you're a parent and your kid has leukemia, you want to find a match. Believe me, you're motivated. So we went to the parents and we set up a lobbying effort in Washington. I'm also a lobbyist. It's not a dirty word. It's not a dirty word because we're information providers to Congress and we go to the Hill and we explain these things. And so that's the system in the US. And I lobbied to get the bill passed. That's really how it started 40 years ago. It's a wonderful legacy to my son's memory. Thank you. That's the motivation. Yeah, it's a good story.
Thank you so much, Bart. Could I request Mr. Bipin Pendiala to please come up on stage and give a small memento to Bart Fisher?
Let me take this honor to call one of our women leader, Radha Penekelapati. Radha is Vice President, Cruise Customer Success on a mission to make transportation safer, cleaner, and more accessible to all. With 20 plus years scaling global operations across customer success, trust, and safety in high growth companies. She's a former leader in YouTube, Google, Salesforce, RingCentral. She is also advisory board member at First Source. She is very passionate about education, empowering women in tech, and executive sponsor of Empowering Women of Cruise. Thank you, Radha ma'am. I request AV team to please display the presentation for Radha.
Thank you for that kind introduction. Hi everyone, I'm so excited to be here. This is my first time attending the India Startup Festival, and I'm grateful to Jay Garu for the opportunity. As I was getting ready to come here, I was reflecting on my career in tech and my experience working with a lot of nonprofits in India, and thinking, what is it that I can share with this audience that's going to lend a new perspective and hopefully inspire you in some small way. Today, I'm going to talk about tapping into the abundance. Technology is accelerating at such a rapid pace, especially AI, artificial intelligence, is exploding. It's become a general purpose utility like electricity, and it's ushering in the next industrial revolution. The timing is right for India to tap into this potential and change its trajectory. I work for a startup. It's a self-driving car company that's based in San Francisco, California. I know it's hard to fathom a self-driving car being in India and navigating Indian traffic. You all must be thinking that's some kind of a science project. It doesn't really work. It's actually a legitimate product, and I had an amazing video to show you all. But we could figure out self-driving car, but we could not figure out how to make the AV work here. So unfortunately, I won't be able to play the video. I spent the last 1 hour trying to figure that out, but that didn't happen. So we just have to make do with the slides. I just want to take you under the hood and kind of show you how the product actually works. There are about 40 sensors that are on this AV. These are camera, radar, and LiDAR, and they're constantly scanning the environment around them. And they actually provide these inputs, looking for the pedestrians, looking at 360 degrees and a couple hundred feet away. So definitely it has more visibility than what a human eye has. And it sends all these sensory inputs to the AV. This is nothing but perception AI. With the inputs that the AV is receiving, when I say AV, I'm talking about autonomous vehicle. With the inputs that the AV is receiving, it's charting a path. I don't know if you're able to see it in this video, but it's basically trying to determine, based on the destination, what is the optimal path. And the environment around is highly unstructured and dynamic. The pedestrians are moving around, other cars are moving around, so it has to adjust its path multiple times in a second. This is nothing but prediction AI. Now that it has figured out what the path is and how to navigate, the autonomous vehicle is actually going to send signals to the different controls of the car, be it the steering wheel or the wheels, or the throttle or the brake, to tell it whether to accelerate or to stop or just continue along the trajectory. I actually want to focus on the transformative opportunity that AI affords us. We actually use artificial intelligence to solve one of the most complex problems of AI. There are a lot of technologies that actually fuel the autonomous vehicles. There is hardware, there is robotics, there is artificial intelligence, cloud computing, edge computing, Internet of Everything, cybersecurity, storage, and compute. These are all the things that we actually have to innovate in, and AV industry actually opens up tremendous opportunity in all of these fields. But for today's purpose, I just want to focus on artificial intelligence. We use perception and prediction, among other things, when it comes to AI. And when you think about it, there are a lot of use cases for perception and prediction beyond the use case that we are actually applying it for. For example, perception AI is used in manufacturing for quality control, or the automated X-ray screening in healthcare, or the emotion detection. These are just a few examples. You probably experience prediction AI every day. The watch next recommendation that you see in YouTube or Netflix is nothing but it's based on prediction. Or the product recommendations that you get on any e-commerce website, they're all using prediction machines. AI is changing the way we work and the way we live. If you look at the enterprise, any workflow that can be codified is a prime candidate for being disrupted by AI. We already see this, sales and services are using chatbots. We are using generative AI in marketing to create creative content that used to be earlier created by the creative team. The blogs, and even white papers are being created by generative AI. And in our everyday life, be it drug discovery, or healthcare, or education, AI offers tremendous opportunities. You're probably familiar with Smart Compose, or the magic editor in Photos, or the contextual translation in Google Translate. These are just some small examples of how AI is disrupting our everyday life. What I'm trying to say is AI is actually fueling an engine of opportunity. So you may be thinking, what does this mean for India? India is now the most populous country in the world. Growing up in India, population growth was seen as a big problem that needed to be dealt with. So what's different now? India's population is increasing while the world's population is aging. So we're not only having, being the most populous country in the world, but we also have the lion's share of working age population. By 2030, 69% of our population is going to be working age. So this demographic shift is being termed as demographic dividend. But this could only be a demographic dividend if our kids and the youth is actually equipped, meaning they have the right education and the right skills to compete. Otherwise, this demographic dividend could very well become a demographic liability. And it just doesn't stop there. AI affords a lot of opportunities, but it's also displacing a lot of jobs that we know of. So it's going to accelerate this displacement, and it's going to make the problem actually even worse unless we act on it. There are about 100 million kids in India who cannot read or write, according to a study by Pratham, one of the largest non-governmental organizations that focus on education in India. And I've been supporting Pratham for a long time now, and I sit on their Bay Area board. These kids have no chance to actually participate in the economy if things continue down this path. My mom didn't really have any formal education, and I'm here because of all the opportunities that education has afforded me. So it's not really lost on me, and I don't think I need to tell you all because you're all here because you're all educated. We all know that great teachers change the outcome for students. World-class education and great teachers, every kid, regardless of where they are and who they are, should have. But it's easier said than done. But how do we use technology to make this happen? You all probably, those in tech, are all far too familiar with Khan Academy that creates world-class content. So Khan Academy recently created this virtual tutor called Khan Migo. It uses actually generative AI ChatGPT 4, and this guides the kid along their learning journey. Just imagine the possibility of creating something like this for all our kids, our rural kids, in their own languages. India is also housed the most number of blind people in the world and diabetic people in the world. 80% of the blindness can be cured. It is actually because of diabetic retinopathy. Sankarai Foundation, another nonprofit that I support, worked on this tool called Netra.ai, which actually uses computer vision that allows you to screen for diabetic retinopathy in under a minute. I'm just giving two representative examples, in education and healthcare, just to show you the possibilities, the unlimited possibilities that are available to you if you want to really drive change. We see, computers doing the computational stuff or the things that we are used to seeing the left brain doing. But right now, with generative AI, is actually composing music. It could very well actually write my speech as well. And it's creating art, creating music, all the things that we think are deeply human, all these creative pursuits that we think are deeply human. So it's natural to wonder what it is to be human, like what is our identity. But I'm one of those optimists that believe that generative AI is not going to displace us, but it's actually going to be an assistive tool that is going to create this multiple factor or multiplication factor and really enable us to do the interesting and the creative things with all the mundane things done by the AI. I want you to take a look at this image. This image was actually created by AI. It's with a tool, generative AI tool called Midjourney. There are lots of tools, DALL-E and Stable Diffusion, being some of those. And I'm sure many more are being created while I'm speaking as well. So I took this image, from it's a Harvard Business Review article talking about this subject. The tool was given text prompts, bulb and flower, and then it just created this image. So think of all the possibilities for innovation and rapid prototyping of products. You could be an entrepreneur, you have an amazing idea, but you don't really have access to the creative team to create that pitch, But imagine you have these generative AI tools at your disposal to create and compete. So it's going to democratize innovation and really afford a lot of people opportunities that they didn't really have before. It's not all smooth sailing. AI definitely introduces some issues that we have to work with. For example, there's going to be, if we don't really take care of the models and the data that we are feeding these AI models, bias can creep in, there could be hallucination. We already have problems with the content moderation and misinformation. I'm way too familiar with that because I used to run content moderation for the YouTube platform globally. So and generative AI, with its power, can create deep fakes and synthetic data, making the problem even worse. So obviously, we need guardrails. Just the saying goes, with great power, it requires great responsibility. So we need responsible AI, ethical AI, and this is where the governmental and non-governmental organizations have to step in and create those, guardrails. But I do believe, in the power of AI, while we work on these guardrails. I want to leave you today with a request. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be a change maker. You have the ability to disrupt with your innovation and executing on your ideas. You can not only create opportunities for yourself, but you can create opportunities for your community. And if executed well, you could actually change the trajectory not only of your community, but for the country. And if done well at a scalable level, even the world. So go be a change maker. That's my plea to all of you. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Radha ma'am. We'll trouble you for a minute more. May I request Sheshadri Garu, if you are in audience? Okay, may I request Bipin Garu to come back to stage?
We maintain the culture. Thank you. That was very informative. Thank you. Oh, we are delighted to have such great speakers who are sharing their experience and letting us know what they have done and what they have achieved. Moving on, the next speaker we have needs no introduction. However, let me tell you a little bit about him. His pioneering effort in the field of technology, quality, legal, and compliance in fintech has acclaimed a lot of rewards to him. He has established and sustained strong engineering first culture and quality first culture in organizations he served and enabled global delivery scale. He is a globally recognized authority in change management, quality management, and compliance in the BFSI sector. His immense contribution as a corporate leader, serving in various roles across multiple organizations, and he's currently serving as Managing Director, Global Head of Enterprise Quality Engineering at BNY Mellon. With a round of applause, please join me in welcoming our next keynote speaker, Sri Atluri, MD, Global Head of Enterprise Quality Engineering, BNY Mellon. And trust me, you are really going to like this keynote address, because what he's sharing with you is something that he has experienced, and he talks about the success mantra.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for listening in. And it's an opportunity to be here. On this topic, I just thought about it when I was asked to speak about a topic that actually would be useful for everyone. But the success mantra, actually all of you are successful. Probably you may not need this, but probably I will learn. And I'm learning from all of you, talking to you for the last couple of days. And what I'll cover, success is not a destination, it's a journey. And if you really see, there are certain attributes, there are certain habits, like rituals, that one ought to follow in order to be successful. There's no magic. If you really see the way the world works, it all starts with foundation. And the foundation starts from your childhood. And the way you speak, and the way you respect others, the way you learn, and all these things that you learn from your parents, from your neighbors, from your teachers, from your elders. All these things are foundation. If your foundation is stronger, you can build anything on top of it. If your foundation is not stronger, anything that you build is not going to last long. And if you really see successful people, it's a mindset more than anything else. If you believe in doing something, that you have a plan in place, and you really have that killer instinct to get to that destination, you will get there, no matter what. But when you really want to get to that destination, the rituals that I'm talking about are not a one-time activity. You need to practice it. And when you see some of the successful people who could be wealthier, highly, I would say, respected in the society, they are where they are not by accident. And the way they get to the levels is by their perseverance. And also, you need to have patience. And if you think you need to be an overnight success, it's not going to happen. You need to really believe in yourself. You need to learn. Learning is a lifelong journey. And if you stop learning, you stop growing. The growth is not just a promotion or just the money that you're making. The growth is how much better you are from yesterday. And you are your own bar. And again, building your brand value. Brand is not only for products, but for people. If you build your brand, you will actually be seen as that. And you are elevating that brand. And that brand is something that you are not accumulating or adopting overnight. You are enriching that and growing. And again, if you say what you say and do what you say all the time, if you say you will do, you have to do it, no matter what. That's where you build the trust. If you do not have the trust-based relationship, no one will trust you. And these are things that I'm just sharing what I do. It's not from any book or not from any of the things that I read, I practice. And there is a book that I'll actually cover, very interesting book, called Kiss Your Butt Goodbye. You can actually Google it and you can actually read it. It's actually written by one of my colleagues at JP Morgan Chase. And Kiss Your Butt Goodbye is actually, I'm going to give you a gist of what it is that is written in that book. I'll encapsulate everything in 2 or 3 statements. You don't need to read a book if you can understand in 2 statements. Basically, we all are actually building our brand I was talking about. Say, for example, Santosh is here, and we'll say, Santosh is a great technologist, but he's not trustworthy. And we'll say, Ram is a great entrepreneur, but he doesn't show up on time. In those 2 statements, anything before but is forgotten. And after but is what people think of them. And we all have buts, a lot of them. And you can manage working on those buts, but the way you need to manage removing those buts is to believe in truth tellers. First of all, you need to be ridiculously truthful to yourself. You need to really understand exactly how many butts you have. If there is feedback given, take it and work on it and remove those butts. And you will all be successful. And I wish you good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shri. I think success mantra is something that everybody wants, and what a perfect way to say that. Foundation is everything. Thank you so much. May I request Tarun Gulati to please come up on stage. I know we are making you walk around a lot, but could you please come up on stage and give a thank you memento to Shri Atluri. Wearing a nice suit, so you're getting called again.
Next and last presenter of the session, Dr. Vishal Rao Garu. To be frank, when I was reading this profile, I was like, wow. So let's hear from him. He's currently the Regional Director, Head Neck Surgical Oncology, Robotic Surgery and Associate Dean for Center of Academic Research at Healthcare Global. He's a TEDx speaker. A good part that we should all know is he invented something called Om Voice Processes. What it does is it's a low-cost speaking device. It helps throat cancer patients to speak. So this is an innovation which got recognition across BBC, Harvard Business Reviews, Forbes, everywhere doctor's name was there. So he has like 18 patents. So generally I'm like, I always used to feel like I have a couple of patents. I used to feel like, oh man, I'm doing good. But after reading doctor's profile, I'm like, oh man, lot to do more. So with 18 patents, today he's going to speak on special topic, possibility to actuality. How to create disruptive innovation environment in India. So that's what he is going to speak. Vishal Rao Garu, please welcome on das.
I'll have a handle mic. Very good afternoon to all of you. I'm the last person standing between you all and the lunch. I'm going to be quick and as relevant as possible. Are we able to showcase the slides? Yeah, but I can't see the slide. I can see myself now. Can you project the slides, please? Yeah, actually when J. Garu sir told me to speak about something, I chose a rather abstract topic of possibility to actuality, because I thought that was the journey that connected with me, and that was the journey that is the story of the Startup Fest. So without much ado, I'm just going to flip through these. I represent HCG Cancer Center, which is our chain of cancer centers. They had to convert the Mac into PPT, so I'm going to face some problems here now. So what a beautiful place to have this event where a man like this created this. So today I'm going to talk to you very quickly about 3 key focus areas post World War C. I mean, COVID has completed in some way. I'm going to talk to you about a little bit of our lessons and learnings. Very simple. I want to keep it, just think about it, and I want all of you all to think over. We've just gone over with COVID, and COVID weighs about 0.85 attograms. Just a few grams of this particular virus closed the world for a few years. That's all it did, just a few grams of this virus. Now, Winston Churchill, when he was talking about Russia, told something very relevant. He said, it's a riddle wrapped in a mystery within an enigma, but perhaps there is a key. So that's how innovations are. So COVID actually is I'm talking specifically on COVID because I think COVID has accelerated the entire ecosystem of innovation into a completely new dimension. So I always say that life after COVID is BC is before COVID and AD is after disease. So you are living in the AD era, and the AD era is going to be a very disruptive new ecosystem, very, very thought-provoking in many ways. And you look at World War C, I mean, this World War that we fought, we did not fight it with soldiers, we fought it with doctors. We did not fight it with weapons, we fought it with soaps. We didn't fight it in close encounters, we fought it with social distancing. And I say that we did not lose the loss of sense of smell, we also lost common sense. How many of you all remember the wave 1? And can you tell me and think and imagine what all you all did in wave 1? So, correct? So, I think wave 1 was about losing common sense. And then wave 2 was about COVID making you lose common sense again. So, we've lost it multiple times. Governments lost it, WHO lost it, ICMR lost it. I think just name anybody, they've lost it. So I had some very interesting interactions at that time, and I am remembering this very beautiful interaction with Dr. Robert Gallo. When I was studying, I used to read his books. He was one of the people who discovered the HIV virus, and I had one random evening, my secretary tell me, you're going to have a call with him. So there was Constantine, the US FDA head for vaccines, Gallo, and we were actually talking on disruption. I never had a chance to actually think that I'll meet him online, and it was such a fruitful discussion, and I want to tell you all what we spoke, something very relevant. So he had a thought, and when we were discussing, he was telling me, what do you think we envision? And I said, sir, after COVID, world over, we should go and say that infrastructure, defense, and health should be considered at the same level. Please don't think health is some small subject at that corner and that somebody else needs to do it. Defense, infra, and health have to be taken at the same platform. So, if you just generally look at health today, translational research from bench to bedside takes 17 years to come out, a product. 17 years. So I'm not going to explain this boring slides, but basic science, animal experiments, phase 1, phase 2. So by the time you come to the market, it's 17 years. Now, what COVID did was, COVID created a hyperloop of research and innovations to actually create these vaccines. Now think of it, what would have taken 17 years took actually just 17 months. There was a joke going around that chimpanzees are waiting for the vaccine because human trials are going on. It went to that extent of acceleration, I mean, it's another game altogether. It's historic that what happened. So now, we are in an era of looking at understanding bedside to bench innovations. And I think that's where we'll need more and more of innovators, doctorpreneurs coming out. Sadhguru's college, I believe, will be one of the epicenters of such innovations for rural. And I'm attracted towards this very beautiful report of Transforming Beyond the Crisis with Head, Heart and Hands by BCG. A very beautiful report. Please get a hang of it. Read it. Very thought-provoking. So one of the most important messages in this was that this will be a people-centric transformation agenda, which will be a key differentiator, not just recovery, but also post-COVID. And we are seeing that happen today. So we call this the awe era. I was actually giving a talk at one of the talks in US where I actually spoke about this, that the post-COVID era will be conscious capitalism, wealth creation with value creation, and ambition with purpose. And these three are going to be the harbingers of the post-COVID era. And I couldn't better reiterate this platform and the platform that I'm standing, the stage that I'm standing in, that we are actually talking the same thing which Sadhguru kept repeating, saying value with wealth, ambition with purpose, and conscious capitalism. Your capitalism approach cannot be vulture capitalism. It has to be venture capital. It has to be conscious capital. So I'm just going to sum up a little quick ideas on. We do a lot of design thinking areas where we say, how do you find the problem? How do you get rid of it? And in this process, how do you create possibility to actuality? And that's how you create what I say is a possibilitarian. And I think that we've got a lot of this, we've got a whole lot of bunch of us here who are all possibilitarians because they've converted somewhere a possibility to an actuality. So I'm going to share very quickly some of the lessons I learned in my life. I just want to ask the audience, the most interesting part about learning lessons from life, and it's different from classroom. What could be the key difference? What's the difference between them? Experience, So, the key thing is that you get the exam first and then you get to learn the lesson. Whereas, unfortunately, in classrooms, you get the lessons first and then you write an exam. But life lessons, and that's where startup journeys lessons are going to be very, very pivotal in their failures. And I keep saying this, that it's not enough to just highlight their successes. It's important to document, understand, and dissect their failures also. So I think our responsibility, as Sadhguru rightly said, is not just to look at what we can do immediately, but also to dimly look into the future. So I'm just going to give 3 principles that I followed on disruptions, and I think these are very relevant. One is, how do you find the right problem? I think world over today, this is not an easy task, and I'm going to give you this little anecdote. So there was this marketing head of an Arab country who had come, and he was taking over Kola marketing, and he had to come up with some disruptive plan. So he used some AI solutions, and in that he came up with this thing that the best way to do it is to overcome the language barrier. So he came up with this very cool pictorial. A man lying dead tired in the desert has a cola, starts to run. He said, simple, let's come make it clear. And he was sitting in a pub with his friend in Dubai, and he was talking to him about how he's going to disrupt this whole ecosystem. And they both were kind of very elated about the idea. Time went by, 3 months later, he met him again. This time, this man looked distraught, depressed. So he asked him, I thought you must be the CEO of the company right now. He said, no, they threw me out of the company. He said, what happened? He said, no, the campaign boomerang. He said, but that was a lovely campaign. He said, no, I forgot to understand that Arabs read from right to left. So a lot of the times it happens with us that we are defining the problem wrongly because we think the problem is this way. And that's what I see in healthcare. I see people come up with this idea which is looking at the wrong way of looking at it. The second, I always say, when you look at something, like when Steve Jobs saw the Apple, he gave me a Mac computer that is not compatible today. And when Newton saw the Apple, he saw the laws of gravity. So everyone sees something in a different way. So just because something is being seen doesn't mean that it can't be redone. An old idea, a new technology can give you a completely new solution. And lastly, I think I'm sitting at a spiritual center, so I always believe in this, that the answer appears when the question is ready and complete. It's like your master appears when the disciple is ready. I think Sadhguru is one such example for it. So I'm just going to close with one example of my innovation. Somebody asked me this question in one of the first year medical students program, and he said, how do I get a brilliant idea? I said, a good question. I said, if you hold on to one patient's problem all your life, you'll be flooded with ideas. So I said, just work on one single patient's problem. It has a soul to it. I hear people come and tell me that there's a great market for AI. I want to do something in AI. So I keep telling them, look, your problem has gone wrong first only. It's like the Arab story. I said, don't do this. I said, don't go to the market. I said, go and search an individual soul's problem. If you think it's deep enough, expand it to masses. Masses will become markets. Do not sit and say that I have a market and I'm going to come and make some solution for it, which is where a lot of companies are failing in innovations. So I had a problem, and the problem was throat cancer patients who lost their voice boxes couldn't speak. And there are only 2 machines in this world, both out of the range of, one is Europe, one is US, both out of the range of affordability. So I had a very simple thing, which is what Swami had told me, that speech is a right, not a privilege. It means that left side has money and right side doesn't have money. It doesn't mean that I don't give. This side only gets to speak, that side, sorry, it's like Arnab's show, you're on mute, So I always believed that we should, have speech and communication as a birthright. So that's where I innovated, looking at this problem of the cost implication. And I thought there was a need to invent another voice machine. So that's how I invented Om voice prosthesis. I've called it Om because the first patient who spoke actually said Om Manjunatha. So it was spontaneous that I just decided, let's call it Om, because Om is the primordial sound, And the man spoke. This was a security guard who had lost his job because he had lost his voice. So I was looking at how do I get his job back. So my first invention was useful, and this is another bank manager. Can you have the audio? Is it possible to play the audio? So what my machine does is it converts the food pipe into a voice box. It just fits into your food pipe, and it's a complex story. I won't have much time to explain that, but what it does is, if you watch the 3 Idiots movie and say all is well, so the brain is the one that needs to be cheated. So what it does is, when the food pipe is absent, when the voice box is absent, the food pipe can convert itself into a voice box. Are we able to get the volume? No, I don't think they'll be able to. Can you increase it? So this is what happens when you use a Mac system. So I'm always paranoid about this Mac system being there for presentations. I carry with me a bag of wires and yet it fails, you know. It's okay, I can change the slide. Otherwise, I'll be running out of time. Is it possible? I just wanted to show you all one video of, so maybe I think later, if at all, if they're able to adjust it. So this is again, I'm just going to skip this video, but this is a video that was done and gifted to me by BBC when we did this invention. Today we have about more than close to 2,000 patients speaking with it, some who haven't spoken for 10 years, 15 years, who are again speaking with it. And I think it's just left a deep mark on the lives of people. Today, looking at all of these patients, I feel it's the most beautiful gift that I could have gifted of innovation, and it's now a patent granted, US patent granted device. So today there are 3 devices in this world, Europe, US and India. And I feel happy because both of them contacted me and said, look, don't disturb us like this, you know, you're going to disrupt the whole ecosystem. But I said, look, let's work together and see how we can reach out to the full world. We have 144 countries to cover. You are only covering 30 countries. So I think I'm just going to skip through some of these. So now we run an initiative called Gift a Voice. We are actually trying to create a global chain to help connect people with voices. We've won various awards. My team is out there. I would like to thank Madhukar, Saujanya, Vishwas, all of them. Shambhavi is also there. For all the efforts they have done, you know. I keep telling that I hire people better than me so that I can take the credit, and that's the way I've been. So I'm being. So this was at Davos recently. The Prime Minister's office decided to choose this as one of the products to be showcased at Davos. So we are lucky enough to have among the 4 healthcare products that was showcased in Davos as a part of inspiration to talk to the world about innovations. And I think that leaves me with the first lesson that I learned, that we are not constrained with the discipline of rigor, but by the limits of our purpose to make a difference, which is defined by our imagination. We all work very hard. It's the question of taking your imagination to another level, and that opens up for ambition to purpose and how to fail successfully. So I think I'm going to close with this. Sorry, this is a lot of extra slides that popped up, but I'm going to flip this to only one point on when do you do research, invention, innovation and a jugaad. Just as a part of the Indian startup thing, what Jai Guru wanted us to gift to India was create in India. And that's what we've done now. We are actually working closely to understand how can we disrupt the ecosystem by not make in India, which is you import it from China and assemble it in India. We are going to create every component, and OM is one such example. We created every single aspect of it over here to ensure that it is created here and not assembled over here. And that's the big difference that we need. We need to put the thrust on manufacturing. We need to put the thrust on innovation. We need to put the thrust on creation. So we run a lot of new initiatives. We are now a part of the International Federation of Inventors Association, Bharat. So I'm taking the lead on the health front with the Prime Minister's Principal Scientific Advisor Office as a partner, where we are trying to accelerate innovation. As of now, we were just looking at amount of redundant innovations and trying to revive them through that. So I'm just going to flip through all of this. I'm sorry, but there's been some juggala. But I think I just wanted to share my last few slides. I had some very good interactions with His Holiness, and he told me something very beautiful. He said, an idea comes to you, not from you. I think that's a very powerful statement. We all think that an idea comes to us and we own the idea. But I think he gave a very thought-provoking aspect to say an idea comes to you, not from you. An idea is right now reaching out to hundreds of people at the same time, but only a few of them will be able to actually materialize it and take action into it. So inspired by him, I started something called Copyleft, not copyright, where I open up innovations and we keep creating open forums where people can come and rob each other's ideas. You know, when the first time I held this program, my chairman was very upset. He said, who will attend some program like this? It's so ridiculous. But it was a house full, so then he said, I'll come and inaugurate it. I can't be left out of this program, you know. So we run this program as a part of Paid Forward, you know, just make innovations more affordable. And the greatest lesson I learned from Copyleft was we had more collaborations than competition. More people collaborated. It was not people stealing ideas. So I think I'll close with some few mantras. I think ignorance is power in the 21st century. We have been systematically confused by education and institutionalized to not go. So, you know, it's like I was talking to the CEO of Rolls-Royce and he said, we are looking at non-domain experts. So I was one of the possible hires. They said we could talk about turbines. And I said, I don't know nothing about turbines. He said, wonderful. He said, we would want you on board because the more knowledge you have, the more problematic it is because you restrict your imagination, you know. So I think I'll close with that. Thank you very much for all the support and patience and opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. May I request Padma Shri nominee and award nominee and scientist Venu Garu to please come on to dais. A small announcement, because we delayed in the first half of the day, right? We are pushing our next part of the program for 15 minutes. So I know that there are different halls. I can repeat the halls. Give me a second. Thank you. I'm again repeating halls for second half of the session. CX4 roundtable would happen in the same hall. Again, instead of 2, we will start around 2:15 or so. GCC roundtable is going to happen in SMS IMSR building. Seems like it's also called as Krupashrayas, right?
Check. It's Sadhguru Madhusudan Sai Institute of Sciences and Medical Research.
It's called as Krupashrayas building. So GCC table is, round table is happening there. The third one, Rural Agri-Tech, is happening in Sri Sathya Memorial Hospital. Request you to please gather in the corresponding buildings to attend these sessions. Thank you, everyone.
Please make a note, all of these roundtables are happening in parallel. So all of these roundtables start at 2:15 at their respective venue, followed by which we also have the second set of roundtables happening from 4 to 5:30.
Yep.
That's Women in Business at Sri Sadhguru Madhusudan Sai Institute of Science and Medical Research, Rural Healthcare Roundtable at Sri Sathya Sarla Memorial Hospital, and a Global Diplomats Roundtable as well. Thank you and wish you have a great lunch.
Thank you, everyone.